Well, greetings and salutations, everyone, and welcome back to tonight's second half. I hope everyone is having a happy Thanksgiving and enjoying time with your family. And if you're not with your family, I just hope that everyone is at least content with what they're doing today. Tonight's second half is going to be a couple of law enforcement experiences. Before we get into them, a couple links. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, and my merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. The links to Patreon and PayPal are in the description below, my merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, the links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe, click the like button, and please leave a comment. It really does help. And guys, it definitely matters. And now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's get on with tonight's second half, shall we? Today's first part of the upload is an encounter from a retired police officer. As an elementary school student in 1971, I saw the legend of Boggy Creek, and it really hit home. I later read Peter Brine's little paperback book. The North Georgia mountains, especially the Appalachians, are rich with legends and strange stories about boogers. Parents and adults would say, "Don't be at night. That's when the booger bears come out." Or, "Don't go out there, the boogers will get you." Problem was, nobody would ever tell you what a booger was or how it looked, so we thought it was only a scary story. In the spring of '73, a game warden went missing overnight and was found on a rural road, walking the next morning by a passing car. He was exhausted and confused, with his clothes torn, and couldn't really remember what happened. It was later said that he claimed to have seen a tall, hairy creature with a big head and a face like a bull. This story was buzzing for about 2 weeks, and suddenly, all the talk of it went quiet. We think he either quit or the state relocated him. It was March of 1974. I was 15. I didn't drink or smoke anything. I was a straight arrow football player and not the type to tell stories. About 8:30, we were riding in a car with 3 other guys. The driver was 2 years older than us. We were spotlighting deer, illegal, but it wasn't for the purpose of shooting one, just checking them out. We were going down a main road. It was barely paved and full of potholes. As we rolled along at about 10 to 15 miles an hour, we spotted a buck and 2 doe up on a chest-high red clay bank with bushes and overgrowth partially blocking our view. This was at a 4-way crossroads where the very narrow dirt gravel right-hand road led off to a completely deserted forest with no houses. On the left was another dirt gravel road with an old church on the corner. Further down the road were a couple of farms. The river runs down one side of this, fed by the Amicalola Falls, which is located at the head of the Appalachian Trail. Ironically, there is an area of the river known as Devil's Elbow, where moonshiners, car thieves, pot growers, and hunters were alleged to have gone missing. This is the same area where the game warden went missing. I was in the passenger rear seat, and I really couldn't see the deer. We stopped. The guy in front of me got out with the spotlight, an old D-cell, and shined the deer. It was apparent that they had been running and were tired because they didn't haul ass when we lit them up. About 3 or 4 seconds after exiting the back seat, I heard a crack and a pop 45 degrees to my right in the forest. My friend, who was sitting next to me, heard it and said, "Oh shit, I bet that's the game warden." I said, "That's one noisy game warden." He then began to urge the driver to get us out of there. About that time came some more noise, like something large moving through the woods. I instantly thought bear because a 500-pounder was killed in our area, but bears are known to be very quiet while walking. So I start saying, let's get out of there, and the hair starts standing up on my arms and neck, and I began to feel sick with fear. About that time, approximately 75 or 80 feet to my right, at a 15 to 20 degree angle, I watched a large hulking figure cross that road from bank to bank in 3 forward-leaning large steps while swinging its arms. From the sound it was making, it appeared to be approaching the deer, and at that moment they bolted out of there. Now let's pause for a moment as I'm frozen with fear and it seems like time has slowed down. My friend to the left says, "What the hell was that?" And now we are both saying, let's go, and have one foot in the car. Then, as I look up on top of the embankment, I see an outline of the figure slowly get behind a tree where its face and head are obscured. My friend with the spotlight starts slowly getting in the car while I and the other dude dive into the back seat. At this time, my older and more stubborn friend pulls out a .22 caliber pistol and says, "Who are you? Talk to me or I will shoot." Now we are screaming, "Let's go," as he says it again. "Tell me who you are or I will shoot." I think my friend in front of me still has the light pointed at it over the door, even though he is now back into the car. At that instant, we hear bang, bang as the driver shoots up in the air. He immediately throws the pistol down and jumps in the car as we spin out there sideways. Now I'm shaking all over so bad that my feet are actually tapping and everybody but the driver is talking at once. I don't remember who asked first. I think the guy in front. They got a better look at it. But he said, "What did y'all see?" The driver was silent as we drove until we found a closed gas station and pulled in. He got out and went to the drink machine and downed a Coke and still wouldn't talk. So now my friend is driving us all home and it's about 10 p.m. and we're all planning to go back the next day and look around in daylight. We also agree to only tell our families minus the part about the gunfire, of course. After we drop off my friend in the back, we are headed to my house. My friend in the front says to the driver, "Hey man, what did you see?" Nothing but silence until we got to my house where my friend in the front says, "You saw its face, didn't you?" He quietly said, I sat there for a minute waiting for more, but it was obvious that he wasn't talking, and it was getting late on a school night. I then had to get out and walk up a long path to a dark backside of my house, which sat at the foot of the mountain. When I got inside, my mom noticed that there was something wrong, and her first question was, "Has somebody been drinking?" Now that was all I needed, so I finally managed to tell my story. My mom replied, "It was probably the devil," but my dad, who grew up on a farm only a few miles from this incident, sat silent looking at the TV. It was his older generation on both sides of the family who used the term booger. Growing up on the farm, he knew all too well about booger stories, and later said that he used to hear strange screaming sounds in the woods. They always blamed it on panthers, but they were all hunted and killed by the early 1900s. The few other people I shared this story with laughed and ridiculed me, so I shut my mouth until 1980. So the following day, we all headed back, and the driver still doesn't want to talk. We get to the location and can't find any footprints, but do find broken branches and impressions in the ground. Then we got to the tree where its face was hidden. The prominent, crooked limb stuck out and bent upward. I could stand flat-footed and reach the limb with my arm almost extended. That put the creature at about 7 foot 10 inches or possibly more. We went back 2 more times at night to look, stupid and heavily armed, but found nothing, thank God. 2 months later, I was at church and saw a girl that lived on the same road but closer to the main highway. I told her what happened, and a very serious expression overtook her face. She informed me that it had ran across the road in front of her one night while coming home from football game. She also said that her uncle saw it coming out of his chicken house about a year prior. I sat there, silently, thinking, oh God, why have you allowed such things to exist? In 1980, a new subdivision was being built near our encounter. A story started circulating that the first resident of this subdivision came home one night to find his back door broken down and his kitchen ransacked. Nothing stolen, just a destroyed kitchen. I didn't know the man, but all of the things he was related to my friend who drove the night of our encounter. Before church one morning, I again asked him some 6 years later if he had seen its face that night. He nodded yes, and then looked the other way. My opinion is the sight of that thing really scrambled his eggs, and he didn't want to deal with it. As far as I know, nothing ever came of the vandalized house incident, as the story died quickly, just like the game warden story. For some reason, I told my dad a story my very peculiar aunt told me at the age of 5 or 6 came to. She and my uncle lived in a house on top of a big hill at the foot of a mountain about 7 miles from our incident. She claimed that while rocking on her front porch one night, a large, hairy man with a very ugly face came around the corner and stood motionless, looking at her about 8 feet away. She said that she felt paralyzed with fear and could only cut her eyes to look at it. She was unable to call out to my uncle, sitting in the living room behind only a feet away. She claimed that she closed her eyes very tight and began to pray to herself. In a few seconds, she opened her eyes and it was gone. I remember her saying his face looked like it had been hit with a hammer. I asked my dad if she was crazy, and which he replied, "Folks thought so." Today's second part of the upload is a state trooper from Pennsylvania. Hello, Jeff. I'm at work, working a double. Sorry it took me some time to get back to you. I'm on lunch now. My name is Kay. I am African-American male, 34 years old, 6'3", 275 pounds. I'm in pretty good shape. I've been in law enforcement going on 5 years now. Recently transferred to PA a year ago. 4 months after settling into Pennsylvania, there was a call through dispatch that came through as there was a minivan on the side of the road in a ditch, that the driver believed he hit a black bear, lost control of the vehicle, and went off the side of the road. Also, a few minutes later, it approached the van, trying to get in. It's a husband, his wife, and their 13-year-old son. So at the time, I'm the closest one on the scene. 5 minutes west on 78 West. So I get to the described area. It took me 10 minutes to find them. I approach the vehicle. There's claw marks a half an inch deep. I announced myself to them. They're all hysterically sobbing. I'm trying to calm them down. I asked, "Where's the bear?" It must have heard you coming, so it took off. I called for emergency services, and they were 20 minutes out. They didn't want to get out of the car, as I assured them it was gone, so I can see who was injured. Then I heard a low, powerful growl behind me. I was facing the family, my back to the woods. Looking at the husband's eyes, as big as saucers, I knew the bear had returned. I slowly unholstered my service pistol at the time, which was a 9mm. I slowly turned around and realized, shit, this is no bear. Standing approximately 40 feet away, on all fours, was this monstrosity. Then it stood up and let out this roar, which fucked with my mobility. I couldn't move, and me with this pea shooter against this 8-foot beast. I'm the only thing between him and this family. As I looked into those orange eyes, hair blacker than the night, I knew what its intentions were. I'm going to kill and eat you, and there's not a thing you can do to stop me. Shooting at it would have just pissed it off. I had no choice, so I took an aim for a headshot. It charged, and I fired 2 shots. I missed, the other grazing its ear. It started running in a zigzag pattern. Fired 3 more, they missed. Fired 1, hit it in the ass, and it yelped. Fired 1, hitting it in the thigh, and it took off. EMS showed up. It never returned. Police report, deformed bear with rabies attacked critically, was fired upon and took off. A large amount of paperwork for firing my weapon and the amount of bullets used. I've had nightmares for months, finding me at home and ripping me to shreds. Well, that's my first encounter. Please email me if you have any questions. I will send you my second encounter soon. Second email. Thank you, I appreciate. Also, I found out that 80% of police departments know about this and have certain people within the organization take over cryptid report because once I turned in my report, I spoke with a person who I had never met before asking about specifics, about his terms, and I quote, "Tell me everything you can remember about this so-called black bear," which I did. After the questioning, I went to my supervisor asking him who that was and why so interested in the animal. His response is above all our pay grade. Be sure to comply and you will be fine. At lunch tonight, I'll give you my last encounter, which turned into a missing persons and government cover-up. Third email. Hey Jeff, how's it going? I hope you're feeling better. So ever since my first encounter, I'm heavily strapped 90% of the time with a high-powered gun or rifle, always watching my six since I've been awakened to a new reality. My second encounter only happened by chance, because that night it was 40 minutes until my shift was over. There were some local officers responding to a young man in his mid-20s who threatened someone's life. This took place in the town of Bethel Park, PA. So as the two officers approached, he took off, cutting through areas inaccessible to vehicles, then later got into a vehicle and took off. They were able to locate the vehicle, and I believe was South Park in PA, minutes from the last known area. There's where I met up with the two officers, and we decided we were going to spend 30 minutes trying to locate him at the time. He was known as Michael Rickard. I went to my vehicle and grabbed my Desert Eagle and strapped on my AR over my back. The two officers had this dude. What the fuck? We don't think he's dangerous, I whispered back. This ain't for him. 5 minutes into the search, I saw the tail signs of something wasn't right, and I urged the officers we should head back. They started laughing, saying, "We got this, you're safe with us." Then, in the distance, we heard a man screaming bloody murder, followed by a roar and a howl from another location. My desert was already unholstered since we started the trek. We saw a young man in the distance hauling ass to us and something 100 yards away giving chase. As I was about to fire upon the one giving chase, another one had snuck up on us without a noise and stepped out of the brush. The officers were too scared to unholster their weapons. It stood 7 foot, 300 pounds, brown hair, shark-like teeth. Big eyes, long muzzle like a German shepherd, and extremely ugly. I had a new target. First shot better count as it was 20 yards away. I was ready to fire. I heard another scream. I looked back in the direction of Michael. Him and the Dogman were gone. I looked back at the other one, and it was gone. I was able to get the two officers to retreat to our vehicles, call our supervisor, and told them what happened. They met up with us about 7 miles from the station, and that same guy from my previous encounter was there with his partner. They debriefed us and told us we were sworn to secrecy, that we were never here, and told us now this is just a missing victim. See, law enforcement has experiences with these things as well. The civilian population is not just the only ones. The one thing that's different is law enforcement, unfortunately, cannot talk about it, and if they do, they have to hide their identity. Anyway, with that, I hope you all enjoyed tonight's second half, and I want to thank you. What am I thankful for? I am thankful for every single one of you guys who are listening to this upload and who listen to every upload that I do every day. Truly means the world to me. I'm thankful for this platform. I am thankful for my health, and I am thankful for my 2 beautiful daughters. With that, may the Great Spirit watch over us all. and may He guide us down that path that we call life. Stay safe, everyone.